Alright, hello guys and welcome everyone. I'm back on Twitch after a very long time. But we have big updates, big news, and the main news is that after many months of hard work, my new chessable course is finally out, co-authored by our beloved GM Mircea Paligas from Romania. And considering the course was published yesterday, we are going to have a little speed run on chess.com where we will be using the lines from the course, and you will be able to familiarize yourself with structures, ideas, plans, and also you will see how the repertoire can be used with the white pieces as well. You play one d3 and you are a tempo up. You can still use very similar plans and ideas. So yeah, for this purpose we have created an official chess.com speedrun account, and over the upcoming weeks we will slowly but surely be making our way up from 800 to 3000 rating. Of course, all of the progress, all the videos I will upload later on my YouTube, so you'll be able to check it out later. First of all, I would like some confirmation that everything is fine, because everything's new course, new laptop, new me. Let me just see. And hello to Andres and Angelica. Yeah, 1d6, that's your repertoire. So you have the chessable command. You can find the new course from your two favorite streamers about your opening. You're the person we assumed would be the first one to buy it. 1d601. That's what we're going to prove many times during the speedrun. Angelica Chessborn. Beautiful background. I made it today in the morning. It's just for speedrunning purposes, but thank you. I will upload on YouTube. Yeah, 1d3. It will be 1d3 and not d4. Everything will be on my YouTube. You can check it out here. It says there is a command YouTube, speedrun, chessable. But is everything fine? You can see me, hear me normally. There are no problems for now with the stream. Just please one quick confirmation. I'm not muted or something. It's all good. Okay. Thanks. So, without further ado, I think it's about time to start. Oh, I got disconnected. It's fine. Yeah. Let's go. I'll put the focus mode. I think it's fine that you can see everything. You'll probably need to remind me about updating wins, draws, and losses, because I'm not a professional streamer. Okay, so we go d6, we go knight f6. This is one of the setups where white tries to be quite solid. They usually go for bishop e2 and bishop d3. Bishop c4 is not that ideal because it stops the pawn from going to c4. However, it's also playable. We're going to follow up with our d6, bishop g7, and the King's Indian setup. Okay, and our opponent goes b4. Now this is a move which weakens quite a lot of squares, so we can go a5 maybe. e5 is always the idea, even including the sacrifice of a pawn, simply to try to exploit the opening of this bishop. Even if the pawn is on b2, it's interesting. So I will try to do it with the pawn on b4. So my opponent simply takes, and now I have a choice between knight e4, taking here. If I take here, it's probably the most straightforward, because now after rook d8, queen d8, rook d8. Oh, can I ask for a take back here? My opponent just resigned. Okay, I wanted to say after queen takes d8, rook takes d8, knight e5, I would go knight d5, blocking the attack on the f7 pawn, and then my opponent would have to either give up the bishop pair or retreat this knight or defend it with f4, and I would get quite a lot of development and counterplay with knight c6 or bishop takes e5 first, which I think would more than compensate for the missing pawn. You're not here to watch me, and I'm not beautiful, but these 6 lines are going to be. Feels like it's been ages. That's right, Adrienne, but I'm back and stronger than ever, hopefully. So, to put it... Oh wait, where's the analysis board? It's game review or what? I haven't been on Chester. No, I need to go here. Now it will not be ideal for you. Yeah. Not ideal for you to see. But yeah, e5, everything what we played was best, and the pawn sacrifice after queen takes d8, rook takes d8, this is what I planned. And now I wasn't sure, like I knew that if my opponent plays here, I would probably go knight c6, knight c6, bc6, and then there would be quite a lot of threats and pressure because of this bishop on g7, which will be our main guideline in most of our 1d6 systems, except against the Philidor, where we'll be putting it on e7. So if our opponent plays the Philidor with one e4, we'll not put it here. What I completely didn't see is that my opponent can do this, but after c6, black of course still has more than enough counterplay for the sacrificed pawn. Of course, any other move would have been fine. a5 would have been fine, c5 would have been fine. But yeah. Okay. For now, we have proven the repertoire working against 1800 players. Did we get some rating? Yeah, 810. Okay. It's a long road to 3000, but we'll be there. On Sunday, I demolished the King's Indian defense according to your old course. Congratulations. Considering that I keep in touch with the games, I saw the game. I think the Chessable1 command goes to the link for my old course. Yeah, Adrian, I'm back. Considering I'm going quite slowly. Oh, I also need to do this. Wins 1. Good. Let's go d3 and see how we can work on our repertoire with the white pieces as well. So d3, knight f3, e4. If our opponent goes d5, we'll go knight bd2, transpose to the Philidor, reversed one. Bishop c5. So what our opponent is trying to do is to go knight g4. This would be very, very uncomfortable. Similar to in the mainline Philidor when white goes bishop c4, they want to go knight g5 immediately. So yeah, we'll go here. It's important that we have after knight g4 castles. d5, and now we're going to play the 2 lines which we suggested with the reversed colors are e takes d4 and c6 followed by a5. In this one, I'm going to go c3, same as c6 would be with black. Okay, usually when they take in this Philidor structure, it's not too good for black. Why? Because after we recapture, this bishop is opened up and black loses his space advantage. Also, additionally, this knight is always very restricted by our pawn. After a5, it's almost always good to go a4, simply to lock down the structure and not allow black or white usually to seize more space. Okay, bishop e6. This is always a hint to knight g5, and then my opponent would have to go back. Alternatively, I can go maybe bishop c4, takes, yeah. I'm not 100% sure, but okay. I also need to not get down on the clock because it's a 3-minute speedrun. I'm trying to make it instructive, but also time management is of importance. Yeah, and now if I'm able to capture the bishop pair, I have achieved everything I wanted from out of the opening. Now we're going to slowly but surely build up knight c4, develop the bishop somewhere, rook to d1, and we'll nicely take advantage of our bishop pair. Still, black has no weaknesses, but we have achieved everything we want. Okay, nothing new in the chat. Enjoy. I hope they're enjoying my new course. You have the chessable command, which will lead you to the course homepage, where you can check it out, see the short and sweet, or buy the course and support our work. My opponent's thinking for quite some time here. I'm not sure. Maybe I should have linked my Twitch account with my Chessdart, with this speedrun Chessdart.com account. But okay, there will be time to do this. So my opponent is playing the correct plan of... my opponent is playing the correct plan of bringing the knight to g6, because on c6 it was doing absolutely nothing. And here he has ideas of going to f4 or to h4. We're going to play g3 for that reason, to stop these knight jumps, and our opponent plays c6. So now rook ft1 is a possibility, but that would leave the pawn quite weak. So alternatively, I would play bishop g5 to try to pin. After h6, I'm just going to play rook d1, and after the queen comes back, I would retreat. I would simply retreat. Okay, my opponent plays b5 instead. Now I feel like my rook is going to be more useful on a1. How do we deal with this? Let's go knight e3. Also rerouting the knight here, and asking the question to black: is he going to give up another bishop, which he does, or is he going to allow the knight to come to f5 where it's unconscionable? So the knights look nice, but they're quite nicely restricted as well, and we're going to focus our attention on this side of the board. Takes. Let's take with the queen. With the rook it was also possible, but maybe I want b4 immediately. I need to be careful about this as well. b4 would exploit the pin, but I have a hanging pawn. Still, we're going to firstly improve the position. f3 is also not a problem of any kind. I need to speed up a bit because I only have 35 seconds on the clock. Bishop c5 could be a move. Can also take on d6, play b4, but yeah. Okay, let's go bishop c5. Takes. And now the good old flagging will come. My opponent is playing quite a nice game for his rating. I think he's underrated. Okay, now we can maybe finally go b4. Actually, I played that too quickly. He can still take. And after bishop e7, there was knight c3. That was a mistake on my part. Those will happen quite often. I want rook d8 now. Considering I'm not a professional streamer or a speedrunner, mistakes will happen. I wouldn't be surprised if the losses count comes up quite early. But for now, it's job done. There will be short and sweet. It's already up there, I think. No, it's not up there yet. It will be up there, I think, tomorrow. Maybe also my opponent is on a speedrun. We'll see. So yeah. Just 1 second. You were able to see quite nicely how we can use the filigree and the lines we have suggested in the course with colors reversed as as well. So my opponent was supposed to not give up the bishop pair but go somewhere else. Then I would probably follow up with queen c2, h6, knight g3 back, and gain some tempo. And here it was of course always very, very pleasant. I didn't see knight a5, rook a5, b4. Okay, doesn't matter, but still. Yeah, b5 was probably a strategical mistake because it gives a point to my rook on a1, which was not doing too much. Knight a3. Interesting. Yeah, and here I completely forgot that e4 is still hanging, and I got from a winning position to a losing one. Will happen in a blitz game, but you don't have to like it. And of course, the rest was quite easy. Okay, let's go for our next game. So we're white again. Let's go for d3. Refute 1 d4 for ambitious chess improvers. You'll find out when you buy the course if we have dealt with that. Okay, so considering our opponent has not gone for e5, we'll go for our King's Indian setups. Yeah, and now after knight c6, they want to go e5 anyway. This is something which we do not have to deal with when we are black, because white has a tempo up and they usually go for c4 quickly. So now we have a choice. We can either push d4, then this will be stupid and e5 will not be possible, but I prefer to play it in a more aggressive style with bishop g2 and maybe bishop g5 later on. Bishop g5 to pin this, and maybe follow up like this with knight c3 and e4, hoping that this will be a huge problem for black in the future, this pin. Let's go knight d5. Knight d2 was maybe better, also possible, but we want to destroy the pawn structure immediately. After this takes, if white goes here or to b4, my intention was to first go rook e1 to attack the pawn on e5. Okay, h6, that's a good move, I think. Now e5 is still hanging. If I take here and go knight d2, that's fine for sure. Then chase this knight. Surely better here. What's with bishop d2? Could go rook e8 probably. But then we can take b4. Okay, let's keep it simple. I'm burning way too much time. Maybe I got used to streaming rapid as well. But yeah, now this pawn cannot be taken or cannot be attacked. And if my opponent played any other move, I would go a3, knight a6, b4, restricting the knight completely. So yeah, I still think the opening was a big success. Let's develop the queen, offer a queen trade. When you're up material, you usually want to trade the pieces. Which one to take? Let's take this one first. Let's take this one. Hello, greetings to Zavadianets. Welcome to the stream. I'm back and I'm doing speedrun, following the lines by from my new Chessable course. You have the new commands in the stream title, which you can use to see what's new. How is it going for you? Yeah. Now this was just a relatively simple version. So you see that you can get quite nice and fighting positions early on from if you play even d3 with white. This is an additional, like d4 is more positional, probably the best move in the position, because then the knight here will be quite pointless in front of the pawn, as he will not be able to get in e5. But here, with this ambitious approach, we managed to get quite a big advantage early on. So now when the pawn was not attacked anymore, for example, if they go, I don't know, maybe a5 is good, so that after a3, knight a6, there's no b4 restricting the knight. But then we can go either knight c4 or maybe knight e4, and probably c3 or c4 to reinforce our center. And we get a very nice fighting position. Okay, Wins 3. All good. Very glad. Very glad to hear that. Let's keep going. E4, D6 against everything. Let's play the Philidor. If they play E5, this is something you can face sometimes in these blitz or bullet games where the opponents are not spending that much time, but here black is immediately taking over after takes and knight g4, attacking several things and developing our pieces. We can immediately take the pawn and get to basically winning position after 5 moves. Alternatively, bishop c5 also looks pretty strong, because first we... Oh. What's wrong with me? I have not developed the e6 pawn yet. I wanted to say bishop c5 looks nice to attack f2 first. Okay, I'm very tired. Obviously, you'll have to forgive me for my mistakes. Also for being not that great of a streamer, but what to do? When Mircea comes and takes over, then it will be better. So bishop b5 this was the threat because we were pinned, and now our opponent decides to take this way. We have a choice. Knight takes allows bishop c7, but then we can go e5 and this bishop will be trapped. This is the more logical way. Alternatively, we can take with the bishop e5, bishop g2, but then after f3, maybe we'll lose this bishop, so we'll keep it safe. Let's see if our opponent actually takes. He does. Here. f3, f4 was the only good move, I think, because then bishop e5 would be a possible escape. I would follow up with f6 and so on. But now after rook c8, this bishop will remain trapped. There is nowhere it can go. A bit tired from yesterday when we were assembling this one new wardrobe at home. Yeah, that the physical work is often very tricky and tiresome. Yeah, the bishop is jumping. Okay, takes. Now we achieved everything we wanted and more out of the opening. The pair of bishops, one bishop up. Let's immediately capture even more material, attacking b2, or if the king comes this way, we will take the rook as well. Let's take on b2. Knight a3, that's also on pre, so we're going to take it. Let's go bishop b5, activate another piece, attack the king with the rook as well. I suppose... No, it goes forward. Is there a checkmate somewhere? There probably is. Rook d3 looks nice so that the king cannot come back there. Let's go bishop d6. This move takes away the square, and now we want to go here and force the king to f5. What's the easiest way to give checkmate here? Maybe castles. If my opponent takes, then there is f5, which is mate. Okay, so yeah, the game showed very nicely what happens if white overextends immediately and plays it in the Alekhine style. This is not the Alekhine anymore, and you need to be way more careful. Here white sees the advantage, here black sees the advantage from very early on. Considering this is a speedrun, I'm not doing rematches because we want to play as many different possible opponents, and structures as we can. So our opponent goes d5, d4. Very interesting. How do we deal with this? Probably by playing c3 first. This is actually not as dumb as it looks. Okay, knight c6, that seems... Okay, so if I take cd4, knight d4, queen a4 check, they'll go knight c6 back, but then we can go maybe d4, d5. Or alternatively queen a4, and then after takes, the knight immediately comes forward. Let's try that. Queen a4. bishop d7, we can take knight d4 or cd4, and there is no good discovery. And dc3 is what I expect, and then we're going to get another piece developed in the game. But my opponent plays this, so now we capture a pawn. Knight e5 is possible, and then I would retreat the queen, knight f3, gf, but even with the relatively destroyed pawn structure, the center would be extremely strong. So we're definitely not afraid of that. Now we're going to push 5 pawns in the center. Bishop c6, attacking t4, reasonable. How do we want to deal with this? e3, bishop f3 is a problem. So probably we need to make an ugly move. I don't want to make this move though, because it will block the possibilities later on. Okay, this was not ideally played by me. Hello, maybe PUBG 91. Course with extra tempo. Of course it's fair. It's mentioned that it can be used with a tempo up with white as well. So yeah, now I'm going to have a small problem with developing this bishop and moving these pawns. How to deal with this? Rook g1 is possible. Maybe h4, h5, h6. Because I'm not going to castle here anyway because of the pawn structure. How do we actually exploit this? Bishop g2 followed by f4 would make the bishop very ugly. Rook g6 was not working, queen followed by queen e6, but now maybe I can go bishop e6 at some point. So let's reinforce the pressure. My opponent wants to trade and then attack this pawn. Very slow play by me. Okay, I'll need to speed up. But if I long castle, there is queen d4 anyway. Okay, let's play that for then. Before I lose on time. This move is strategically not what we want. Okay, knight g4. That I'm pretty sure I should take. One of these games I'm going to lose on time, probably, or blunder something big. Okay, now we can take here. We could have taken on e6 first, but I want to have rook takes c6 as a possibility as well. And if the bishop retreat comes, now we can open d5 and activate all of our pieces. So d6, bishop c6 is not ideal. Also, queen h1 is a threat. We're going to go here for that reason, I guess, because now after queen h1, king d2, queen a1, we can take here and then here. Although I should have calculated this way deeper, because then b2 is hanging, but I don't have time, which I'm supposed to have. Okay, rook d8 played. Now we can go here, hoping for queen e1 and takes. Let's take here now. We want to go queen f7. If queen e7, it's good to calculate in advance, of course. Then we have queen e6 here, bishop c5, which might be quite important. Queen h1 check is now possible, but that would lead the queen away from the defense of big nasty threats. Bishop d7 I will of course take. And here we're going to take the queen. Who needs queens anyway. And my opponent does indeed resign. This was a very interesting setup for black, one I have never seen before. To push d5 and d4 early on. Let's analyze it a little bit. c3 was probably best. Yeah, knight c6. So interestingly enough, after c5, it would be best to take and go knight e5 to immediately cause problems on the c6 square. This I'll remember. It could be needed in the future. And knight c6 was surely not so good. Yeah, here cd4 was a mistake. I should have taken with the knight, as then there is no more destroying the structure. But cd is not so bad. But here, this was a nice setup, which blocked my development for a while. Engine wants to go e4, queen d4, bishop e3, and then sees more space. I don't know why I didn't do that. I was too greedy to keep the pawn. But of course everything is always easy when the engine is on. Yeah, bishop e6 was working. With rook g6 and bishop e3, queen e3. So just play for this massive pawn chain. Yeah, didn't look that clean to me because there are 3 pawns for a... No, there are 4 pawns. Yeah, that makes more sense then. This is the first time I'm seeing this pawn structure, by the way. It's quite funny. Okay, and in the game, yeah, f4 was some big strategical mistake. I don't know if I should be analyzing the games or not, but yeah. Maybe I should just play as quickly as possible, but I'm trying to make it a bit more instructive. So here, this what I planned was actually not good at all. This is when I said, this is what I said, bishop a4? I saw queen c3 not being possible, but bishop a4, big problem. I should have calculated in a great detail, but okay, I also have d takes c6 and the king is just too weak. And yeah, later on it was fine. Okay. Let's keep going. There are not many viewers, which I guess I should not be surprised about, considering which I should not be surprised about considering that I haven't streamed in many years. Okay, we're going... This is one setup which is covered as well, and after bishop h5 we usually went for g4 followed by knight h4, and then taking up the bishop pair immediately. Here with the tempo up it's even better. We don't have to take the bishop yet. It's quite good to delay it because the bishop is not going anywhere, and if they ever try to save it like this, then they're going to be forced to capture with the f-pawn. So we will usually go here, and then we try to make a setup like this with a double fianchetto, with taking out this bishop and try to keep the position relatively open for our bishop pair. Works for black, works for white as well. So now my opponent is allowing me to take this pawn on e4. Knight g6, hg will be played, and now I can take on e4, which I'm definitely going to do, because that seems like a free pawn. It was also possible to go g5 first, but then if my opponent would move the knight, this would have been hanging. Queen d1, king d1, okay, I lose castling rights, but the king is relatively safe on d1. We have the bishop pair, we're a pawn up, and the opening was again a huge success. Maybe let's go b3. I like this plan with the bishop going to the long diagonal. And now my opponent goes here trying to go d2. Actually a good move. Didn't see that. I should have. It's not like it's that big of a problem, but look at d2. Why did I do this? Made it a bit messy for myself. So maybe f4 first for that reason, to get rid of the knight, and then bishop b2, rook d2, king f3. Or if my opponent... so he wants knight c5. I think I'm going to part ways with the bishop pair after knight c5, bishop d3, and just finish my development. Knight g4, by the way, was never working because this was defended. Okay, now I don't even have to part ways with the bishop pair. This would be a problem, so I would have to go to d3 had he played knight c5, but now I don't. Let's go here. What was going on? Thank you, smart guy. Welcome, welcome. Maybe I need to put GM title to this account and pair it with Twitch. Yeah, I could. What was there? Mircha didn't use the 2 free accounts on chess.com? Who knows? I also don't know. Yeah, the bots are not going to get any response from me. He doesn't want to lick his prep, probably, yeah. Nightbot is deleting the wrong messages, but what can we do? Now we're going to try to exploit this tactically by removing the knight from from f6 and gaining the bishop, the square on g4. I know that I'm allowing knight g3 and knight h1, but I will get this bishop and then the knight later on again. So the pin is very, very deadly. Now I guess I should take with the bishop. Actually, it doesn't matter all that much. My opponent resigns. So yeah, this, you should remember that taking this bishop is usually quite good. You can also alternatively go for e4, and then you play some kind of a philidor where the bishop is definitely not ideally placed on g4, but this felt more ambitious and it worked out perfectly in this game. d3 is of course even better than d6. Your tempo up. e3, is that covered? Probably is. So let's see if my opponent, do I take or do I not take? Let's take. If my opponent takes with the g pawn, then we get queen h4, king e2, bishop g4, and tactical trick was knight f3, bishop f3, king f3, queen h5, king f2, queen d1. That would take the queen, but bishop b5 would come. And then after c6, rook d1, cb5, we would still be left with a bishop up. And here we will just take the queen and hopefully win the game in a few moves. Let's go queen f2, there will be knight h3. Let's then bring one more piece into play. Bishop b2. Do we take or do we go knight b4, knight c2? Doesn't matter, I guess. With the queen up, it should be all fine. Let's go here, knight b4. I'm quite greedy, I want to take the rook as well. d5 was probably better, but I want to still be greedy. Let's go here. That's a check. Now we suppose take the knight, threaten checkmate in 1. Also a5 will come to activate the rook as well, bring it into the attack. And that's all she wrote again. Of course my opponent was supposed to play ef4, but then, like, he does have some weaknesses around his king. We would follow up with knight f6, probably d5, bishop, either c5 or bishop c5, bring up the other bishop, castle, and so on. Let's keep going. You're considering buying the course? Definitely, that's always a good idea. Buy the course. The chessable command is here, which will lead you there. So d3, d6, knight f3. What is our opponent going to do? Our opponent's not here. Let's go knight bd2 and e4. The reverse philidor is here. So usually if they go for this stuff with d4, you should break with c3 and follow up with knight c4 sooner or later. This is to try to seize more space and destroy the opponent's space advantage. Do we go bishop e2 or queen b3? Queen b3 looks very tempting to immediately pose problems and activate another piece. So yeah, queen b7 would be nice, but it doesn't work. There is knight a5, queen b5, c6, and the knight is defended. So we're just going to recapture here. What the opponent is doing here is not ideal, surely, because he is he's developing pieces and giving them up instead of developing more pieces. So we're going to activate the rook as well. Queen a4 seems interesting, right? Yeah, queen a4. I want to try to exploit the lack of development from my opponent. Had he gone queen d7, I would go d4 followed by bishop b5. And here This is the tactics which I was preparing. Rook b7, queen c6 with a check, and then we will recapture the rook next. So we're going to win some material. Take here, knight e5 is also possible. Is taking the rook too greedy? Could be. So I'm just gonna go d4, attack the bishop. If they take, we're going to pose another tactical trick on our opponent and win the queen. Bishop c6, and we take the queen and we win the game. So yeah, this is also possible in the reversed Philidor. That's when white has this as well, and they can play some d5. This is covered, of course, in the course. Usually you go here, put the knight here because they gave the square. Every time you move a pawn, you give some square. So the square given will be exploited, and maybe queen a4 or b4, or a3 b4 would be would come. Follow. Maybe sometimes we would even take, leading us into some Sicilian structure. But objectively, this is never a problem in the repertoire or in the course. Hello. Where are you, Mircea? Aren't you playing the Romanian Championship? I heard that you're going to play d6 in today's game, in the Romanian Championship, right? And that's why you cannot do the speedrun. Yeah, the speedrun's going fine. Where are we at? 871 is our rating. Considering I forgot to do this, how many wins do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, this is new to me, so updating this after every game will be a problem. I will surely misremember way more times than now. Than I have already. Sorry. Making progress with the rating. Mircea, use the new commands. Let's play the... Why are they doing this all the time? Here it's of course better than when we were white. Then we were even a tempo up. So let's go c6. I'm not sure if allowing this immediately is objectively best, but at least it looks very ambitious. And as now we're going to play f5, bishop g7 and activate the bishop. f5 immediately could be a problem because of queen d4. Queen b6 is an alternative, which is potentially very interesting, considering white gave up this bishop. Now we can go f5, I guess. There's no more queen d4, and the bishop is going to be extremely active here and pose a lot of problems. My opponent is going to have to play c3 sooner or later. And now I guess we just bring more artillery into play. Taking is attractive because then the bishop will be under attack several moves later. Knight d7 is also relatively attractive. How do I want to do this? Let's go here. After this I want to take with the queen. And here I hope to take. And now go knight f6 with a double attack. Now I will either get the pawn or the bishop pair, or both. So it seems to me that the opening was a relative success, or a complete success once again, as it always is with 1d6. The more you play it, the more you'll see that happening. I'll take this with the knight. I want the bishop pair and the pawn. Could have taken with the pawn as well. It's also good. My opponent wants rook e1 and pose some problems here. Is e5 too ambitious? No, I don't think so. We'll go e5 and bishop e6, maybe long castles, and then start our attack here on the king. Hopefully I won't lose on time. What's going on with the course? With the chat, sorry. Hello, Zarakaya. Yeah, I've been well, I've been very busy, but the news are here. And we're ready. I'm back, and I'll be back for some more time. Also with Mircea the Best, we'll be doing speedrun. So my opponent wants to start his own attack. I'm gonna go f5. I also want to go rook g8 to put more pressure. I'll put the queen to c6. Potentially in the future this could be an idea. It's quite important that this stuff remains closed. Okay, let's go king b8. It's never bad to put the king to safety first. Let's go f5. Now is the time to seize more space and throw everything we have at our opponent. Knight g5 I saw, but I think I can just retreat the bishop, and this knight will, I think, just come under attack after bishop h6 or something. I need to be careful about knight f7 though. So maybe bishop f6. If the opponent takes, the knight will be trapped here. If he goes back, well, then why did he play knight g5? And when he goes back, oh, knight f7. What am I missing? Probably nothing. Here, knight h6. We go here. Now we will be able to double. This will be a threat. f4 is also an idea, trying to go here. I guess queen h5 will be played by my opponent. No, he gives up the knight. There was no need for that. But of course the position was quite bad already. Queen f3. Nothing concrete yet, so let's go back. No concrete tactics. Now we want to go bishop e7 to activate another rook. And then this will be maybe a threat if the queen goes away from defending the square. Let's go e4. Why not? Yeah, now we can finally take, deliver more pieces into the attack. How do we do it in the best way? In the sharpest way. If rook takes, we go here. And then we cause more problems. Of course, the checkmate threat was also very nasty. Knight e4 is what my opponent should do, I guess. To fight on. Queen e4. Do we take? No, I'm just gonna take here and try to keep it simple. I might lose this game on time. Wouldn't be surprised considering I have not played on chess.com for a very long time. Don't barely remember how the pieces move. I'll have to pre-move as well. Oh well. There will probably be losses. There. I expected them to attack this pawn. I guess I have to start pre-moving. Or not. Okay. Never mind. The time scramble is not of importance. Of the importance was how we achieved a very, very nice position after 1d6. And yeah, immediately this was very ambitious to go for c6 to allow takes and e4 because our pawn structure is ruined, but the very nice dark squared control showed us that it's very, very possible. Maybe cd was better here just to get the tempo, but knight d5 was also fine. Yeah, I didn't play it the most precise way, but still, the objective victory was never in question. Position-wise, clockwise, it was. Thank you, Zorikaya. The new course is published. You can check it out, buy it. Yeah, this is the first episode of Speedrun. This is the start of it. I don't know how long it will last. Mircea will take over at some point. f4 is, of course, the big problem against the course, but I dealt with it in a quite decent way. Hopefully not paired against a Super FM in disguise. Yeah, it could happen, my rating is not shown on screen. I put focus mode so that I think this is better. But just ask me and you will see it here. I can also put it without focus mode, but I think this setup makes a lot of sense. Wins 9. e4, d6. Let's prove that this is a great opening one more time. Party, there's no party command. Party is on your channel, not mine. Here we're serious. Yeah, it will. Everything will be uploaded to YouTube. Don't worry. Every segment of the speedrun will be uploaded. It will be like gaining 200 points, 300 points, and that will be one chapter. Okay, let's go bishop e7. Knight g5 was a big problem again, so bishop e7 had to be followed by. c5 is probably objectively best because it stops d4, but and then follow up with knight c6. But we want to gain, and this is the first time we get into the Philidor main line, but our opponent doesn't play one of the main moves, but takes here, which we have said is definitely not critical, because it opens up our bishop and destroys the spatial advantage for our opponent. So now we can take here, which would give up the bishop pair but win a pawn, and then bring the knight to d6. Alternatively, knight d5 or c6 are also fine, but I see absolutely no reason why not to take the pawn, so I'll take it. Maybe rook e1 is the best move now, because knight d6 there is some knight e5 potentially. After knight c4 there is knight c4, and after knight e5, rook e5, this is hanging. I'll have to check this out a bit more detail. Thanks, Lan. You're welcome. Let's go here. Now, after knight g5, we're going to have e4 with a tempo. Our opponent has some nasty ideas, but we're going to deal with them. And also the bishop on c4 is going to be taken next move. Not necessarily next move, especially after such moves, because you always need to check your opponent's options. And now we have an option of a double attack, which will not only give us the bishop for a knight, but the whole free bishop. Another big success in the Philidor. Of course, our players are beginner players, but that's why the speedrun is for. You will see how the repertoire works against beginner, intermediate, expert players, and of course GMs in the final part of speedrun. Hopefully I'll reach 3000. Why? This is a serious speedrun. We're here to show how we win games with 1d6. If it works against Firouzja, it should work on chess.com as well. Let's go bishop f5, finish our development, and defend the pawn. I refuted both courses because of 1d3. Yeah, of course. 1d3 will lead to good positions. Queen e5 is probably the most practical, because it forces white to either trade the queens or part ways with the rook. And when you're material up, you of course want to trade, because it will make your job way easier in the end game. Winning is the party, if you say so. We'll see how the repertoire is the greatest of all time of repertoires. We'll see about that, but it's surely a good repertoire, very, very practical, because you get a practical repertoire with white and black against everything they can throw at you. The ideas and setups are always the same. There's no long memorization, it's more about positional understanding. And yeah, always new fighting positions. I think it's an amazing repertoire if you're a beginner or intermediate player to do it. But of course, I'm an expert player. I'm a grandmaster, and I have used the lines very successfully in classical chess, so it can work for everyone. Yeah, I'm actually quite curious about this game. I'm not doing analysis of every game, but of this one I'm quite curious, because I wasn't sure after rook e1, knight d6, knight e5. I didn't see something, right? Bishop f6 I did see, but there's no good square. Yeah, I should have checked one move further. Yeah, knight d6, and then maybe they would go something like this, but that's still a clean pawn up. Yeah, the early knight d5, if they try to ever overextend against the Philidor, it will be very, very good for you. Same as that Alekhine approach with the early e4, t4, e5, that backfired immediately. Okay, we go back to focus mode. I think the wins number is 10, but I'm not sure. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Yeah, recommended to Angelica to buy and learn. I think it's way more practical than e4, e5. Everyone studies e4, e5. And they're really ready against this. Against d6? Like, who studies d6? Yeah, it's on a discount now, so now is the best time. It's the introductory discount on Chessable for the new course. So now is the best time to buy it. Expert, not pro. I don't know what expert is. You say 2200. I don't know. But even against titled players, it works very nicely. Let's continue. Bishop d3, one of the more positional sidelines. And usually they go c3 here, where we have recommended knight bd7 followed by d5 with some sharper positions. And as we said, against this, we were usually breaking with c6. However, now when the bishop is on d3, I'm actually going to start with knight bd7, so that after c4 I go here and either take the pawn or the bishop pair. My opponent gives me the pawn, which he actually gives me both. It was better to go knight c3, then we would take only the bishop pair and follow up with a5, knight d7, knight c5, with a very, very good version of the King's Indian, so absolutely nothing to complain about. This, the way our opponent played, is even a better version, because there's no e4 pawn, so we definitely take that. And again, the repertoire is a huge success. So, they go bishop f5, b4, knight d3, probably yes. a5, b4, come on, sir, that's queen, cannot go here. This will surely help, but the position was already, of course, lost. Let's go back. Yeah, now this part of the game can be dealt with in a more comfortable way. You're an expert. Everyone here is an expert. The chat was always the expert. Don't you remember? It was a long time when I last streamed, but the chat was always right. The chat was always the expert. Okay, let's take the rook. Hello, Neil Philip. Am I always playing black in this speedrun? No, I'm playing both white and black, but the repertoire can be used with white as well. That's why we're playing 1d3 and using the same systems, ideas, but improved because we're one tempo up. That's why we're not only playing black. I think it's very useful because the course is for black, but it can as well be used with the white pieces very, very nicely, as we have already proven, and we will prove many more times. And this is checkmate. So yeah, very often at lower levels they will see space like this, which always gives very good positions, always good takeaway, which always gives us very good positions. Sorry for my I'm not used to streaming, so there will be some English mistakes and so on, but hopefully you will not take it against me. It was quite simple, not that much to analyze. Let's go for d3. Yeah, chat always knows the best move. Yeah, of course, Neil. You are very welcome. Your super chat. Bring some more people to the chat. We want more people. Again, I guess until we reach a certain level of rating, they will be playing this similar setups. Here again, I don't see why I cannot take this pawn. Of course, c3 would also be very good. Yeah, queen g5. It does attack this knight, but what are they going to play after knight c4? We're attacking the queen, we're attacking the knight. The only move is queen d8 back as far as I can see, but why did they go here then? Additionally, after queen d8, we'll be able to play c3 or bishop e3. Maybe c3, and then trade the queens. And we have better development, we're pawn up. And our opponent gives up the whole piece, which will make the chop easier. But with 1d6 or 1d3, it's always very easy. Anyway, once people know about the course and that you're speedrunning, they'll come for sure. Yeah, I'll be here every day. We will take this. We're not afraid of this. This is only one check, and we will cover it. Even if we didn't win any material, allowing a check which develops our pieces would be good. And now definitely, we're 2 pieces up, completely winning position. We will take on c7 now, threaten some nasty stuff here. I don't know which threat is worse. And 1d3 strikes again. Not too much to analyze here. But you see, even at lower levels, they're just not familiar with the structure. So our rating finally is 900 plus. Yeah, so this is same as c4 d6, so we'll use the same setup suggested, which is to see space with e4 and f4. This is suggested against one c4 and against one knight f3. With reversed colors, it's of course even better. And now we just develop with knight f3, bishop e2, castles c3, h3, bishop e3, knight bd2, bishop e3, knight bd2, c3. c3 I could have played way earlier. Then usually the black's best reply is to go for c4 to at least destroy this pawn chain, exploiting the fact that this is under attack. And now if they go d5, we will follow up with e5. Usually they play g6, bishop g7, so the bishop on e7 is more passive, but it's also playable. How do we want to react against this? F5 takes... I mean, I don't want to recapture with the pawn, because that gives squares and loses control of the center. G4 could be a good move, just going out for a full attack. Or more positionally, d4. Which honestly, like in my old age, I became more of a positional player. Do you remember when I just first started streaming, guys? And then I was a full tactical player. Now I'm the positional old player. What to do? Yeah, I'll play d3 consistently. Because this is simply the point of the speedrun, to show the lines from the course and these setups. I'll go a3. I could have gone rook c1 as well first, but I did not want to allow the knight to come here. d5, e5, knight e4 is a possibility, but while this knight is nice after bishop d3, or if he puts it back, it doesn't matter, or even if he would trade it later on, we get a massive space advantage now. And have a great version of the French, and now we just launch a full-out attack here on this side of the board. I'm not sure if I should take, or maybe f5 is even stronger. f5 takes de or knight e, even probably knight e, because then the queen will get access to h5. I like this. Now I refute what I said about being a positional old player. I'll go for full tactical mode. Now, queen b1. Is that too crazy? Queen b1, forcing g6, bishop g6 takes, queen g6, king h8. And then what? Instinctively, it feels right, so I'm just gonna do it. This is not what I suggest to anyone, to my students as well. Never to rely on instinct, but always on calculation. But considering I don't have much time, Now I'm going to break that rule. This looks very tempting, but we need to calculate tactics. There is knight f6, unfortunately. So I'm gonna take here instead. Or maybe I should take with the knight. With the knight looks more natural, simply because it opens up another piece. This game I got myself into time trouble. So, but if I take with the knight, okay, my opponent loves everything. But if I had taken with the knight, there would be maybe knight f6. So maybe taking with the pawn was better. Anyway, we achieved what we wanted now, and our opponent is not going to be able to defend. Checkmate. Okay, this is a very good example of what can happen against one c4 or d3 c5, where we seize a lot of space on the king side and in the center and start attacking. Our opponent was probably supposed to play d5 earlier, then e5, maybe d4 or something like this. Here it's not possible, but then yeah, knight d7, then we would go d4, so he was not even able to do that. But yeah, everything, knight e4 was probably better, because when you have less space, then it's usually good to exchange pieces. But still, after bishop d3, for example, takes, he doesn't have to take, he can move the knight, but then after queen b1, we're going to dislodge the knight anyway. So then again, the attack would be very, very deadly, and there is no real counterplay here. a3 was very useful, stopping all of these things. I need new setup in the room. I have to leave the room to see the chat. Yeah, I will just turn the laptop here, then I will not have to leave the room. But thanks for pointing that out. Where are we at with wins, actually? I again lost count. This is not part of the speedrun, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13. This will not be ideal, but it's fine. Let's go let's go again. Now it should be better. Now I can read the chat and I don't have to leave the room. Yeah. Okay. e4, d6, queen f3. Interesting. This is not covered, by the way. If they go for this, but we're going to exploit this by attacking and defending. They have zero respect. They want to checkmate me in 3 moves. Unbelievable. But of course, now when we dealt with the threat, we have a very, very comfortable position once again. I'm just not sure which setup to choose, whether to go with e5 or maybe e6, d5. Both is good, surely, or g6 even. Actually, I'm going to do something different. c6 and d5 if possible. No, not d5. d5 is not ideal. Maybe c6 was not ideal either. I'll have to add this in the new update to the course. Okay, let's go d5 anyway. It keeps up to e5 square for the knight, so it's not ideal. I don't want to enter the Carlsbad structure after takes in d4. I want to keep the position more open because I have the bishop pair. Let's go here. I'm destroying the 1800s. Yeah, but later on we'll get to destroying 2800s, don't worry. So now I think it's very useful to put the bishop here, not only because of the double attack, but also to disrupt our opponent's development. So our opponent wants this to get some counterplay, which I'm absolutely not interested in. I don't mind parting ways with the bishop pair. Now we're a pawn up. I'll part way with it like this. So now the structure for white is horrible. There are 4 pawn islands, and he's a pawn down. So another opening success. Yeah, it's really good now. Have some mercy on them. Mercy, what is that? It's not in my vocabulary. I'll have to look up in the dictionary what that is. Now we're going to, even if he had one more pawn, for example on c5, this would still be the plan to gang up on this pawn, which is isolated on d4, and then attack it as many times as possible and take it. So f5, we'll take this as well, and I feel greedy, so I'm not going to give any of the pawns to my opponent. I'll protect them all, and it will be 7 against 4 rook endgame. They say all rook endgames are drawn, but I don't think this one is. Let's go king d6, get rid of the rook. That's the spirit. Yeah, that's the spirit. Let's go b6 and c5, create a passed pawn, if we can. And now we're just gonna push the passed pawn down the board. Let's go here. We can still defend it with rook d4, and now march the king to help the pawn promote. Now transposing to a king and pawn endgame is the easiest way. Then that way you don't even have to think about the rook and what it can do, and you just push the pawns. You destroy the opponent's counterplay. My opponent maybe wants some stalemate. Had I taken all the pawns and then he goes king d2, this would be a stalemate, but no such luck, and we win the game. Yeah, against queen f3, of course, you can do everything, knight f6, knight c6, e5, whatever, and you'll have a great position as long as you don't get checkmated on f7. Up a million pawns. What's up with you, chat, by the way? What's new? I haven't been live for so long. I want to know what I missed. Okay, let's go d3. This was a new win, right? So we have to add the win counter to 14. Okay, knight f3. e4. Yeah, g3, so this could end up being some kind of a g3 fillader. Let's go c3 or knight c4. Let's go c3, b4. This is the typical fillader plan. Even if they don't go for d5, you can still use it and seize quite a lot of space here. It's always good to see space if it doesn't cost anything, and here it doesn't. c5. That's every time you move a pawn, you weaken the square. You need to be careful what can come to that square. In this case, my knight. Do I include knight b6? No, I can do it next move. Knight c6. Should I take the bishop pair or not? That's the question. I could do it and then go queen b3. Yeah, let's keep it relatively primitive. I don't want the bishop to develop to e6 or to g4. I'll just take it and enjoy a nice position with the two bishops, and also this bishop is relatively passive. Here I will absolutely exchange this and probably put the bishop here to pose problems to this pawn. Knight d7, the opponent is playing correctly, trying to put the knight to e5 and gain some counterplay, but still. I should go f4, but I don't know if I should do it immediately. Actually, why not? Let's go f4 for an all-out attack, and also to stop knight e5 in any case. King there. Bishop f3 is always useful, just to be ready against these f5 motives. Then you can always recapture with the bishop, and it's never a problem. Let's exchange one pair of rooks and then take control over the c file. queen b8, queen c4 is good, to go queen c7, queen d5 is good to attack this pawn, but queen c4 I prefer. There is no rook c8 because we control it, we are threatening to take the pawn. So yeah, d5 is a possibility to attack this pawn, but I don't want to. Okay, maybe I can take material, but just the positional queen c7 is absolutely good enough. And after it takes, just take the queen and take this and transpose into a winning endgame. Still, the materialistic approach and the perfectionist in me asks that I take the pawn, as I don't see why not. As of course my opponent can go here, but I can defend with queen h3, and even if I don't defend, queen h2, king f2, there will be no real problems. There will be no real problems for my king, because this is very well defended. Actually, just to prove that point. No, I don't want to prove that point. I just want to defend. I just want to defend and enjoy a bishop up position. There is no need for anything. My opponent now, of course, takes the pawn. Where do I want to go now? I allowed way too much counterplay, actually. I was not supposed to allow that much. Okay, let's go rook d1. I also don't have time, which is a problem. I can take here, right? Playing with fire a bit, but I can cover the check with rook d1, especially if they go here. Had they gone to c1, it would again be covered. Rook d7 was made immediately, but yeah. This was quite sloppy. After bishop e5, I was just supposed to play h3 probably. I allowed some counterplay, but still not enough. I don't think it was ever a problem. So yeah, this was one of the more one of the less ambitious setups when they don't go for d5. It's also possible with white if they don't go for d4. But then you just gain a foothold here very nicely with b4, or if they play a5, then you go a4, knight c4. Maybe even you go d4 in some lines. And with the space advantage, I don't think it's anything to worry about, and why we should always have a great position. This was one more win, so we add the number to 15, and we go d3 again. Okay, nothing new in the chat. I think the first session will end when I get to rating of 1000 or 1100. I'll see. Depends also about how many viewers there will be and many other things. So here, this is something interesting where our opponent decides to play the King's Indian. Oh, we can actually transpose to a King's Indian attack setup, which we have not suggested, but in the lines we suggested we are a tempo down and they already have this, and then we suggested bishop f4, knight e4. Something similar I will play now. And now this is also a very, very interesting sideline in the King's Indian attack where we play e4. And now we transpose to it, but it can also come. Yeah, and now they do this, they take your pawn, and now you go queen e2, rook d1, and start attacking because you have a huge development lead, and you just exploit it. You have more than enough counterplay for the sacrificed material. Knight e5 is good, knight bd2 is good. Actually prefer knight bd2 because it will immediately bring my rook and from a1 into the game, and will threaten some very annoying stuff with the spin. So even though we're a pawn down, this is similar to the very first game I played. Even though we are a pawn down, the counterplay is amazing. Okay, I thought my opponent went to b6. Here it was just under attack. And yeah, now okay, we can take everything. but using these ideas, again, we very nicely and convincingly got a winning position after only a few moves. Rook e1, so that after rook e8 we can take. And one more bites the dust. This will be 16. Let's go again. D3. Our opponent's maybe not here. No, he's here. It was saying disconnected, but he's back. Yeah, e4. Yeah, they're playing a copycat game here, just following every single, okay, up until now. So we can just play it the same way, but we can also play it in a bit more ambitious way, which here I prefer. I actually played like this in an over-the-board game against 2400. I played this setup, e4, knight f3, bishop e2, and this is exactly what they did. Played with knight d4, and after takes, now we have a choice between knight b5, forcing c5, or just going knight b1, knight d2, more positional. I'll go for the more positional stuff. But now when the structure is defined like this, it gives us something very nice, and that is the expansion on the king side, because the pawn from e5 doesn't control f4 anymore. So this is what we're going to play for. Here, start pushing everything and attack the king. F5, our opponent immediately tries to counter it. Let's take this. Rook takes. Knight e4 is very logical, as now we have this square as well. Here. What's the best way forward? An all-out attack gives up the e5 square, which you don't really want to do. Okay, let's make the most logical move then. Force the rook away, and just bring the rest of our pieces into play with queen f3, rook a1, and then we'll decide. Bishop b7, surely a possibility. How good it is, I'm not sure about, because now the bishop is free on this diagonal. Let's go queen e2. Now knight f6 is potentially good. Rook e1. And now we'll think about this, or maybe just play positionally with bishop f3 and try to play for this 3 against 2 in some endgame, where this 5 against 4 are not ideal. Bishop c6. Let's go here. This has a nice tactical point to it, my play. After knight f6, I want to go knight g5 and sacrifice the queen, and then go knight f7, gain the queen back with a tempo. I saw that alternatively my opponent could have taken here, but then I would take with the pawn, and the light squares would, I think, be quite a big of a problem. And now, knight g4. This is a nice tactical point. Check, king g8, knight d8. And now we capture the queen back, and also we'll take the bishop on c6 later on, and the knight will be hanging, and will just be a lot of material up. Why not to include some tactics training in this speedrun as well? So we can take here. We can also play g3. I'll just block the bishop. Now this is hanging. This is hanging. Knight e3. So what's the most practical? Probably take like this. Oh, this was not the most practical. My opponent should have taken here. But still, it's fine. And now everything is winning, of course. but bishop d7. Okay, this is probably the most clinical because the rook is trapped, and even after here rook f3 it would still be trapped. So now we can take. I need to be a bit careful about my knight and about my time, of course, but it should be fine because I can always escape via a7. Take. Now the bishop is hanging. If we exchange the rooks, it will be very, very easy because we have more rooks. A6, let's activate the rook. And start picking up the pawns. Actually, I'm not sure that I'll pick up the pawns. I might go knight d8, knight d6 first because I want to leave the king cut off on the 7th rank and then just march my pieces towards it. Looks like the most practical. Now I get the king here and try to give checkmate on a7. Everything is easy when there is no counterplay, of course, but this was the most practical. Yeah, this is the copycat approach. They can also castle, and then you have to decide whether you'll go c4, knight c3, or knight bd2, many possible options, but of course this is not ambitious for black, and if anyone is better, it's always white. Let's keep going. Haven't heard anything from the chat in a while. Knight bd7. Okay, these setups have been covered in the course in detail, so let's go for the b6, the double fianchetto. If our opponent goes knight f3 at any point, then we'll go g5, bishop g3, knight h5. This you have already seen. The knight on b3 makes no sense because it cannot go anywhere, so this is absolutely not a problem. I think now I'll still go for this and knight e4, considering this square is not covered yet, and we'll try to take the bishop and continue like this. Yeah. I want to exploit bishop g2 now. Hello to Kyler and the Great. Do you think getting to 2000 FIDE should be done via self-study? No, I think you should hire some coach who is rated 2100, 2200, who can lead you there, who is not too expensive, and it will be an immense influence, in my opinion at least. That's how I got it. But of course it can be done via self-study, it will just take away more time. Yeah, taking on g3 and taking on g2 is possible, then go back. It develops some of the pieces for my opponent. I'm not gonna do it actually, I'm just gonna go bishop g7. Queen g4. That's too ambitious for your own good, sir, I think. Now I go back. Now I attack the g2 pawn. And the only way to defend is queen h3. After that I have g4, queen h4, and then I will take this and trap the rook and win it. So this is way more accurate than knight g3. Okay, bishop e4, now I can take the bishop, I can take the queen, can do absolutely anything. Just for fun, I'm going to leave the queen on the board for a while, but not for too long. And yeah, my opponent blundered a lot of pieces now, which will definitely help. Yeah, and our opponent left the game. So yeah, these setups, you'll face them quite often. Usually they will play knight f3, and then play bishop e2, castles h3. They will play these London or bishop g5 systems very often, and your setup against this will be with a double fianchetto, or if they go for bishop f4, then it will be clean double fianchetto. If they go for this, very often we will take the bishop and play with the bishop pair. This is of course all covered in the course, which I will once again promote in the chat. And Yeah, this good thing about these systems is they're very flexible. In the future, you'll be able to go c5, you'll be able to go e5, even knight somewhere, and then f5 to start full out attack. So against the London players, you will have a very good repertoire, which is often useful. I'm not sure if I updated the last win, if it's 17 or 18, but it's less important. f4. The chat said f4 is the biggest problem. Is the biggest problem against the course. Let's prove them wrong. So e3. I'll go for the ambitious e5 immediately, sacrificing a pawn. The opponent doesn't take it. Now there are many good options. Taking on d5 should be quite good, or even taking on g6, bishop g7. e4 to seize more space cannot possibly be bad. Yeah, let's go for e4. Ask the opponent where they're gonna go. We can seize more space with c5, but they just want to finish the development first and put the bishop on the long diagonal. Also, our opponent needs to develop this bishop somehow. He cannot go here because then this knight would be chased in a very ugly way. And yeah, bishop c4, b5 would be chased away. So d3, that's probably a good move, but it will make the e3 pawn extremely weak in the future, and I'll try to prove my point with the next couple of moves. Maybe there is an immediate way to exploit this, actually. It's et or knight g4, then et, but I don't think there is, actually. Now I think is the time for c5. You'll see why. If they go to e2, I think I can go knight g4, but it leads to... yeah, okay, it leads to weird positions anyway. So my opponent wants to go to c3. Let's go here. Maybe I was not supposed to play like this. Okay, let's keep it simple. I'll take go d5, play for more space. There is no need for tactics when there is no need for tactics when you can have a very nice positional edge, I guess. Chat's still very silent. Queen f3. Okay, develops a piece, but long castles cannot be played because there is bishop g4, at least for now. And during that time, I will finish my development. I said you cannot do it. They're supposed to listen to the stream. They're supposed to listen to the stream. They would hear some interesting things. After we get the exchange, we will launch a full-scale assault with b5 c4. Every time when you are you have the kings on the opposite sides of the board, an attack should be carried out if possible. And now we can go either d4 or b4. Probably d4 makes a bit more sense. Just actually both were good enough. The point is just to attack the knight, and when the knight moves, or if the knight moves, then you can go c3 and fork the two pieces which are here. So the attack was quite fast and convincing. Also, now considering the dark squares around the king are so weak and we have the dark squared bishop, I don't think good things will happen to my opponent, and we'll immediately go for these squares. knight d5, but now we can just take, go queen a3, and exploit this bishop. This bishop against any d4 system will be very, very powerful, especially against London's, Java's, and so on. Yeah, okay, another win. Let's say it's 18. I'll count it correctly later. What is actually... Just 1 second. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm supposed to put... maybe I'm supposed to put custom not on minus, but -25, so that we get stronger opponents quickly. More quickly. I'm not sure. Maybe that's better. My first speedrun, maybe my last, so I don't know many things about it. Let's do the same stuff with reversed colors. Knight bd2, let's say first. Bishop d6, we go for the double fianchetto setup, as we have said. Yeah, okay, bishop b2 first, or h3. Let's go h3, just... but if I go for this and knight h4 now, there will be bishop e5, a little bit uncomfortable. So I'm gonna go bishop b2 first. Even if you don't take this bishop, it's absolutely no disaster, but going for the bishop pair very often gives good things. We'll follow up with e3, queen e2, long castles. And do I want to take or not? A pawn is a pawn. Let's take it. I'll lose some precious opening time, but a pawn is a pawn. I'll actually play d4 here. I'm not sure if it's the best move, but I want to keep the bishop pair on the board. Even though I blocked my own bishop for now, I still think it will be useful later on in the game to have both bishops. Queen e2, as we said, and now we'll try to bring the king to b1. Queen c7, long castles. I can open up the position any way I want and whenever I want. I want to go a3 here. This way, if they go a4, I can block with b4. If they go b4, I can block with a4, and the attack will not be that big of a problem. Now I'll go f4. This is a positional. There is now a positional threat of going g5 because, of course, I blocked the side of the board first. But after g5, this bishop would have remained on h4 for a while, and it would not be able to go anywhere. So my opponent correctly brings it back. But now, as we said, we're a pawn up, our king is safe, the knight will come to c4, it will be a bit uncomfortable, but we also have our own things to play for, a pawn up, and we'll start attacking on this side of the board. Maybe I was not supposed to allow f5, yes, but still, things will open up here even if my opponent plays f5. Actually, I don't know what I'm talking about. f5, there is knight g5. So yeah. Knight here. Now I'll go to e5. My bishop now is indeed not good. It's absolutely not ideally placed. Knight e4. This is probably correct. I'll now take, and I will go... Oops, wait, c4, there is f6. I didn't see that. It could be a bit of a problem. So let's go h5 first. I'm not too happy about playing this move, because after takes... Let's take with the rook. I will also give the f5 square for the knight, but... There was no choice because f6 was a threat. Knight g8. Now queen g2 feels extremely strong because it attacks the knight. After this, I think it's finally time to bring this bishop, which was bad before, into action. Now knight e7 is a must. And now let's put the bishop here. I don't want to trade the rooks, I'll need the rook for the attack. And also push the pawn down the board next. Let's go here. King e8 is probably what my opponent will play to get rid of... Oh no, he just takes, but now we take here, we go d7, we go d8. And yeah, job done. Yeah, this was... alternatively, if you don't feel like going for this, you can castle, go queen e1, e4. I'll try this as well in the next games against these setups. Also very, very reasonable idea. Then go knight h4, f4, start the attack, and maybe this bishop will get trapped by the pawns. But also this stuff with taking the bishop is extremely efficient very often. e3, bishop e2. This has not been included in the repertoire, I think. It's way too passive. Okay, let's develop with knight f6 and play in the Philidor style anyway. Of course, there are many more ambitious setups, but let's just prove that this can be played against anything. Knight c6. Now what the problem, not really a problem, but I cannot really play d5 to seize even more space because this is hanging for now, so I'll try to go queen c7 first and go there then. Why is the chat so silent? Have you abandoned this speedrun, or just waiting for the titled players for the last part of the speedrun? Okay, d4. Let's go e4 now. And now after takes, do I want to take? Yeah, I think I want to take so that there is no c4 with opening the position anytime soon. And bishop d6. Again, we have a great version of the French. We have seen this once before today with colors reversed. And now we need to think of a way to improve on the position. This could be g6, h5, king g7, and start the attack this way. We don't want to allow knight b5. There is absolutely no need to give up the bishop pair. It's not even that much about the bishop pair as much as it is about us having more space, and with more space having more pieces on the board is very useful. So this is a piece sack now by my opponent. Let's go rook e8. Try to bring as many pieces in the game as possible. Maybe the plan is not so dumb. I need to be a bit careful now. There's bishop c4, which is relatively annoying. If I go here, bishop c4, then there will be e4 as a threat. So I should probably retreat somewhere else. If we go to e6, there will be e4 and d5. Go to d7 then. How do we deal with this, actually? Maybe with a counter sacrifice. This has not gone my way, I'll tell that. I have misevaluated the position completely. Still, the fight goes on. Let's go here and knight e5. Now we have ideas of bishop b5, knight d3 potentially. We'll go queen d8 to attack the knight. And now I think it's really time for this, and for this nasty fork on e3. It would be quite dangerous if the queen and the bishop would survive and attack on the dark squares, but when I attack with knight d3, even if the rooks are defended, I want to take the bishop. This bishop is very strong, poses problems to my king, so I do have queen b6 as well, which I'm going to include now because I will get access to the f2 square. If king h1, the knight will go there. If king here, now the queen will come there. There's surely many better ways, but I'm just gonna take the bishop and threaten knight f2. There could have been some checkmate like bishop d7, e6 takes and so on, but if you take the queen, nobody's gonna ask about checkmate. Now we'll go h5, and bishop e2 should be mate after rook e2, queen e2. Yeah, this was far from ideal, but out of the opening, it was surely no problems. Where are we at with rating? .974. Okay, I think it makes no, considering there is no activity in the chat, I think we will end the stream for now when we reach 1000. So this will be the first part of the speedrun, 800 to 1000. And then, of course, I will be back either later today, or maybe tomorrow. I will see. Yeah. Let's go castle. Hello, MC Jefferson63. Welcome to the stream. Let's castle first. If knight f6, then maybe we'll be able to go knight g5. It's not a necessity, but why not? Let's go for this. When they retreat, if we get the bishop, then we have achieved what we wanted in the filider. And if they retreat, then at least they'll have to spend a move on h6. So now with the bishop pair, I'm not sure if I want to go bishop h5 because king e7, the king will be relatively safe there. So I'll just play in the normal, typical filider style with c3, b4 here, and now I'm not sure if I should be worried about d4, but I don't think so. I'm gonna go here to put more pressure on the d5 pawn, and then later develop maybe with queen e2, rook e1, and so on. Yeah, d4, I thought to go b5 now. And after dc here, cd2 to just take, and maybe it's not ideal. Maybe I misevaluated this. But bishop b2, yeah, then I was supposed to go a3 first, or b5 first. That would have been more precise. But now after knight b8, it's totally fine. Now we just go bishop b2, take this, go knight c4, and sooner or later this center is supposed to break up. Knight b3, or yeah, let's go knight b3. Knight c4 was also fine, but let's go a4 first. I want to go a5 and trap the bishop. My opponent stops it. Let's take. I think it's finally time to take and go queen c2, queen c4. Build play this way. I could also, oh, takes with the bishop. I did not expect this because I thought I'll get nice counterplay. e5 is also possible to activate the bishop, but I don't think it will escape. Queen d6, there is bishop a3, and slowly but surely we're building up the advantage. Ah, you're working and watching / lurking. Yeah, fair enough. Queen e7, similar to queen d6. Now we can exploit this. c5, there is en passant. And now with the exchange up, it should be very, very easy to convert this. Especially now after we get in e5 and bishop to b7. Yeah, if they... So bishop b7, knight c5. I think it's still fine, queen d5. And we grab this later on. They can take d3, but so what, we'll take d4. And this is of course also not a problem of any kind. We'll take on c7. Take on d7. Bunch of material up. Yeah, and if they ever give up this this bishop in the filader, it will always be relatively easy for you. Just because in the filader you don't have any weaknesses. Sometimes you have less space, but you never have any weaknesses, and this helps really a lot. Rook c1. We'll play rook c8 next. We can even pre-move it, as it's with check. And let's take here, go back, and it will be checkmate. Yeah, this is something you'll face very often. If you play 1 d3 or d6, this kind of filaders, usually they will go for h6, knight f6, and then you will see later on which setups we're going to use against it. Let's update the win counter to 21. And continue on our journey. Okay, this has potential. It could come to the reversed King's Indian to learn some new structures. Okay, bishop g4. It's not what they usually do, especially if they take this immediately. Now they spent a tempo and developed our piece. And now, because we have the light squared bishop and our opponent doesn't, I'm pretty sure we should open up the light squares as quickly as possible. So we'll do that by posing questions and attacking this pawn quite quickly. With the knight on f6, we would have bishop g5. Here, after bishop g5, there is f6. But now there will be another problem. How is black going to develop his pieces? If they go d4, now we're going to go knight e4. If g6, then there would be bishop g5. And now this bishop is very, very strong. The plan should be to open things up here. I think even at the cost of a pawn in the Banco style. Because I feel like, oh, this cannot be good. This knight is not dependent. Can take here or knight f6, which is probably even stronger. Go knight f6 then and take. But had my opponent taken, I think the Banco style play would be very, very uncomfortable to face. Yeah, I have to be a bit careful. Knight h4, g8, rook g8 would be mate. But after this, I always have f3, so I'm not scared of that. And my counterplay should be way faster. Let's open everything up actually. e3, d4. Take. If they take here, now the rook comes to play as well, and the bishop too. And let's bring the bishop first. Check was also fine. Bishop there, and I think it's time to take finally. And go. What's the most precise way? I don't know, but it doesn't matter. We don't need the most precise way when we can have the primitive way. We'll just go with our pieces closer to the king. And guess takes. Now queen sour, and it will be checkmate. You make it look so easy. No, it's not about me. This can be you. You just need to learn and buy the course and learn. 1d6 or d3 against everything. Just that. And it will be very, very easy for you as well. Yeah, think we'll play 2 more games. And then end this session for now. Again, people are trying, they have 0 respect. They want to go for this. And I will again go for what I did last time. Take the bishop. Take the pawn as well, I suppose. The fiddler is especially effective against players who are trying to do this. Buy the course and it will be you. I mean, I've used the repertoire from this course in classical games against GMs, including Firuza and the Bundesliga. I've beaten many strong players with it. So it's not like everything I publish, I'm also playing myself. You have seen that in my first course, and with this course, it's basically the same. There's no marketing tricks or some lines which I will never play myself. It's always what I play, I post. The lines are very, very good. They worked for me so nicely, and I'm pretty sure they will work for you very nicely as well. Let's take the bishop, take the knight as well. It seems great not only for you, but for any... It's great for anyone, I think. Like, if it's good for me, and I face 2700 GMs with good results, I lose sometimes, okay, but I also win sometimes. Then it's definitely good for you as well. Now the f2 square gets overloaded. We attack the rook, and we launch a huge attack. Is there some checkmate? Not quite. So we'll have to be happy with the fork and the queen, which leads us to another nice one. Okay, this is not included in the course if they go for some queen f3 or bishop c4, because it makes absolutely no sense. And this is probably the last game for this session. Let's hope we get a new nice fiddler. Maybe one of the main lines, rook g1 or bishop c4. Would be very nice. Okay, they go for d5 again. D5, as we have said, usually reply with c6, knight c5, and we want to pose problems to this white center as soon as possible. Now we'll attack e4, and white already has a problem. They either have to move a piece for the second time in the opening, or part ways with the pawn. And now I think we're going to take here. Another opponent, another demolition. CD. Knight takes. Now I can take on e4, but it would leave the knight very strong, and I'm not sure how much I want to open up. My original idea was to take here, and just to play this Sicilian structure, which seems to be a very good version for me of it. E4 would be nice, but there's bishop b5 check, and I don't win the piece. So I'll just finish the development first. There's no need to hurry. We have a great position. We have the attacking potential. The structure is usually good. We have the attacking potential. No weaknesses. We can take the bishop pair whenever we want. Or if he wants to preserve it, he has to move the bishop for the third time in the opening, which I definitely have nothing against. And now we will start with the expansion and the attack. Yeah, it's been very instructive. These systems they're not very popular. People don't play them much, and they don't study them much. I think I didn't update the win counter with 22. And that's why you can use this repertoire in such a great way. because everyone is studying some mainline theory, but when you play d6 or d3, they won't be studying that much or at all, because nobody plays it. Okay, let's go knight c3. This is not the best move, I'm pretty sure, but I want to play a bit more tactically. Queen c3, e takes f3, bishop f6, immediately there would be knight d4, and now I have this threat, and I want to take fg2. This was, I'm pretty sure, not the best, but tactical play and attacking play has always been a specialty of mine, and it immediately backfires for white here. Yeah, you have the chessable command, you have the speedrun, you have the speedrun as well. So this was very, very good, very instructive how to play against this d5 stuff. Now we have finally rating 1000. I think we will finish for now. We will raid someone as soon as I find someone to raid. And I'll be back either later today, before Title Tuesday. Nobody will watch this when there is Title Tuesday. So either I will be back early or between Title Tuesdays, or if not today, tomorrow. This will be a long process to reach 3000. And yeah, good things will happen if you use this repertoire. You're gonna read the info in the link in detail and will seriously consider buying. Yeah, the short and sweet will go out tomorrow. Short and sweet will give you a glimpse into the repertoire. Let me see if I remember how to raid. Yeah, I still remember. So we're going to raid Anna Kantane, a Polish streamer, and we will see each other soon. I will upload this on YouTube, so no worries. And yeah, have a great rest of the day.